Okay, so Timelord, you asked some people to give some feedback on the last couple of games that you've shared in the Alliance chat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick look through them. You've told us that you actually won these games, but wanted some feedback on it anyway. So I'm going to have a look at them and see sort of where your decision making is and how you're actually playing on the battle and how you're reacting to the information that you've got in front of you. On my screen, you'll see I have got the sort of visual bug on this recording since the iOS update, but it should still play through smoothly. I'm just having to put up with that as I'm playing at the moment. But basically, I'm going to go through and I'm going to do this with Fog of War on essentially, just so that I can see the information that you see and then give you feedback based on how you're reacting to the information that you have. When you look at a video sort of as a commentator overall, where you've got the view of the whole battlefield at the same time, it can sometimes lead you to thinking about or making considerations of sort of information that you wouldn't actually have in the game necessarily. So I'm going to restrict it to your view here and see how like you're playing based just on the information that you have. Before we get started, I'm going to have a quick look through your deck, and I'm not going to give deck advice or I'm not going to give an opinion on the deck itself, but what I am going to do is I'm going to look at what you've got in your deck and what you know about your opponent, and essentially how you decide what your win condition is or how you need to play the game. So looking at the units that you've got, you have your one tech at the top with the Basilisk, and then various combinations of other units that pretty much gives you solid counters to many things. But from what I can see, I think the plan here is going to be for you to run a single harvester, even though you're running tech units. With Basilisk being your only tech, you're probably not worried about going double harvester to try and get the most amount of money possible, but you're going to be using your scavengers, I assume, to get the extra money that you need to eventually buy your Temple of Nod. Either that, or you're going to go for harvester rushes to sort of give you that extra bump in money. At the start of the game, you can see your opponent's running Solomon. So at this point, you're thinking about yourself running a single harvester and trying to gain as much money from early skirmishes as possible with your scavengers. He's almost guaranteed to be going double harvester. He's playing Solomon, he needs his money for his ion cannon, he's probably running tech units alongside that at the same time, so you know it's going to be down to you to try and take over the map as early as possible in the game, get the pads charging, because your Basilisk is kind of your opportunity unit later on, rather than your actual final game plan. So let's see how the first sort of units come out. I'm hoping to see you build a scout unit straight away and go straight onto the pads to sort of see what he's doing, so let's see if you do that. Okay, good. Scouting out, getting the pad charging. Yeah, so you see his one harvester there. You haven't seen another unit yet, so he's probably going a second harvester. There it is. Okay, interesting. So you've gone straight into Marauders. You're putting pressure on his harvester straight away. You haven't seen what buildings he's got, whether he's bought a single one yet. I would be tempted, and what I normally do in this situation is actually stick a second scout unit on the back pad so that you can send your middle scout unit forward and see when they build their first building and build my unit in response to that. You're going straight for the risky plan of harassing the harvester, which I'm assuming like might work out, might not work out. We're not really sure at this point. It really depends on whether he's got a counter in his deck. I think it turns out that he does. He has snipers, but you wouldn't know that information at this point. So I think this is a fairly valid strategy. Let's see what happens. Okay, so he does have snipers at this point, so you know your Marauder's probably going to be in trouble. Yeah, and then you see the second lot of snipers as well. Okay, fine. He's not quick enough to respond, and you get the harvester kill, which is nice. Good. Chuggy in response to the two snipers. Get those pads charging still. You should take this first missile fairly easily then. Yeah, fine. And now you can clean up those snipers. So you want to clean up the snipers and get your Marauders straight on the harvester. Right, so especially seeing as now he's just built an Orca, your Marauders should be pushing up straight away. Move those two militants back onto the back pad. They're not going to be useful for anything. They're just going to get killed as part of a skirmish later on. Use them to hold the back pad, where your opponent's going to have to go out of their way to kill them. Move the Marauders up And then in that way, you can start pressuring the Harvester even more. You've got a stealth tank, which is almost guaranteed to be able to hard counter straight away the Orca and smash it in one piece, assuming there's no mistakes in the micro, assuming he doesn't manage to get another unit in the way. So boom, 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 there we go. And now you need to pull the stealth tank forward. Yeah, I would like to see the Marauders and the stealth tank going straight for the Harvester at this point. I mean, he's built a Talon. Not entirely sure why. I'm assuming because he thinks your Marauders are going to move up, but still then the stealth tank is going to handily deal with that in a few seconds once it reloads. So everything should be pushing forward at this point. Okay, we've got another stealth tank. We can easily be harassing a lot more and pushing your opponent here. You're giving him a little bit too much breathing room in order to get the right units out, and be surprised if we don't see a tech unit in a second. Okay, missiles. Okay, there we go. There's his first tech unit. Probably not the scariest thing, but again, your Marauders being in the middle of the map here would have been so much better than having to use your stealth tanks to take these guys out. Yeah. Okay. Fine, good little bit of micro there, keeps him off the pad and just scrape the second missile. So overall, just some reflections on the game as a whole. That game was actually a lot closer than it needed to be. There was literally a split second in it on that pad at the bottom. Also, had the guy actually moved his Orca correctly on either the back hex of the pad or just clicked to fly over the pad, that pad would have flipped to yellow, and then it would have been able to turn around and blow up your stealth tanks because it just reloaded right at the moment, and then he probably would have taken that missile, and then you're potentially in trouble. I know you've got your Basilisk coming out straight at that moment, but you're throwing it into a sort of risky situation where it's going to be Basilisk and Marauders versus Sandstorm and probably more tech units that you haven't seen yet. Obviously, it's complete speculation, but I can see a world where him getting a Disruptor and a Sandstorm out actually then starts taking over the game. He's got his two Harvesters out. He's got various options of what he can do next if he managed to scrape that second missile. So it was a little bit more risky than it needed to be. I think the main difference here is if you're going to keep the pressure up, then just keep that pressure up. You've got that expensive Marauder unit just sat at the back doing nothing, holding a pad. You could have a squad of militants or even one final militant in an almost dead squad just sat there charging that pad doing the same job. The Marauders need to be in the middle, especially as soon as you see the Sandstorm. Marauders are the perfect unit to deal with that. Obviously, it didn't end up mattering, but I envisage a world where another 200, 300 milliseconds and he could have potentially taken over that game. So it was really, really much closer than it needed to be. Have a think about your deck. Like I said, I'm not going to give deck advice in this video, but it does seem a little bit strange. I think the Harvester kill did you like sort of set you ahead on your economy a little bit so that you could keep up for most of the game and actually eventually get a Basilisk even without having to scrimp on the units that you were buying. But I don't think it's going to work out correctly in a lot of situations. You have to go for the militants and scavengers in the early game sort of strategy. I don't know whether you are doing that. Well, I don't know whether you didn't do it just because you saw that he was Solomon. You kind of predicted that he was tech, but just have a think as to whether your strategy is actually clear or is actually a strong strategy. Basilisk itself is actually not really that much of a great unit. I know it feels good when it works well, and on the maps where it works well, it feels like it can be really overbearing, but just overall it's pretty slow. It can be countered with units that are fast and mobile that can take it out quite quickly. I'm not sure how the matchup even goes with a Sandstorm, to be honest. I've never actually seen that, but to me it's not ideal as like the top end of the deck if you're only going to take the one tech unit. You know, if you're going to do that, you want it to be some sort of super unit or something, or just to play a different deck entirely. But just have a think about that anyway. It's not my area of expertise. I don't play those kind of decks, so but I'm sure there are other people that'll be able to help you out with that. Okay.